I want to speak to you guys about Yom Kippur. It's Parshas Vayeilech this week. So let's see what we can discuss in terms of the Parsha and in terms of the day of Yom Kippur that's coming. We have Teshuva coming up. So there's a really important Ramban in this week's Parsha. The Ramban is talking about Teshuva, and specifically charata, having regret in the Teshuva process. We all know that there are three basic steps to the Teshuva process. Vidui, admitting what you did wrong. Verbally, speaking it out, whispering it out to Hashem. The ideas, not pretending like you didn't do the Avera, which is a very natural inclination of a human being. To pretend, to immediately deny, here's the reason why, or here's my excuse. That's normal for everyone's first thought to be along those lines. It wasn't my fault because, but we have to catch ourselves and then correct ourselves and think, but what could I have done differently? And how could I have done things better? And that's really vidui, admitting I am at fault. I can do better for the future. If we don't start with recognizing that there was something wrong there, recognizing that I could have or should have done something better or different, then how in the world could we ever get to the next steps of tshuva whatsoever? It wasn't me. So that's the first step, vidui, admitting I did do the Avera. Recognizing the seriousness of the Avera. If it's quote-unquote only bein adam l'makom, I disobeyed Hashem. If I didn't do a mitzvah or did an Avera that we don't really appreciate the reasoning for so much, can we at least recognize there's so much reasoning to every mitzvah, even if we don't understand it completely. And therefore, I feel bad, I recognize I did something wrong, I disobeyed Hashem, and all the amazing reasons that exist in every single mitzvah and Avera. The second step of tshuva is regret, is charata, to feel bad for what I did. And the third step of tshuva is aziva sachet, kabbalah ala asid, to accept that I'm not going to do the Avera ever again. So let's talk about this last step for a minute. What does it mean to accept that I'm never going to do this Avera ever again? Let's take Lashon Hara, for example, common example. So I think to myself, today, this past week, for sure this past year, I spoke Lashon Hara. Maybe I can even think of some specific examples. So I'm admitting, vidui, I feel bad about it. I regret it. Shouldn't have done it. It's an Avera. There's a lot of logic to it. And obviously there are reasons that we don't understand too for Hashem's mitzvahs, for not speaking Lashon Hara. And then, step 3, I make a commitment, I will never do it again. Come on, who am I kidding? I'm never going to speak Lashon Hara again, ever? Is that just a sheker? Is that just a lie that we say? Is that like only for Aseres Yimei Tshuva, like Pas Yisrael? What are we doing? No, Tshuva means forever. So the answer is that the Ribono Shalom doesn't expect us to be perfect. He doesn't expect us to be malachim or angels, but he does expect us to put genuine effort into it. Genuine effort starts with a commitment that I will put genuine effort into it. And then it continues with some practical ways that I'll put effort into it. Maybe I know that when I hang out with a certain group of boys at a certain time in a certain place every day, at that lunch table, at that area of the field, at that whatever corner of the Beis Medrash, usually that conversation with those people at that time and those people ends up coming into Lashon Hara. I'm going to stay away from that environment. That's a genuine piece of effort that you're offering Hashem, so to speak, like a korban that you're offering Hashem, because that's not going to be easy. That's not just going to go smoothly. Generally, you would enjoy it. Maybe even you'll be called over and either make an excuse as to why you're not going to come that day, or awkwardly just say, no, I'm not so comfortable. But you're going to do it because it matters. And there are many other ways to make efforts, just in your own mind, mentally, thinking a lot about it, working on it, trying to pick a day that you're going to avoid that Avera, trying to pick a time of day that you're going to avoid that Avera, trying to say, okay, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm not going to do that Avera no matter what, even if I end up stumbling or falling down on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, etc. You make up whatever you can do, push yourself a little bit, and that's success in the tshuva process. It's not all about the ends of, I never did it again. It's about the process. It's about committing, that third step, committing to put genuine effort into trying your best to never do it again, to making steps in that direction. That's the Teshuva process. The Ramban says that the Ribono Shel Olam says, I'm going to hide my face from you, Klal Yisrael, because you sinned with Avodah Zarah. Ramban says, this is not the hiding of your face that Hashem says by the Tochacha, where the worst plagues and sickness and tragedies and catastrophes occur to Klal Yisrael. That's not here. Here, it's just that we won't have redemption. We won't have geula. Right? We're in a time of gullus. Astir as panai, Hashem hides his face from us. It's so much harder to see him. But look at all the prosperity we could have at the same time, like we have in America now, Baruch Hashem. Look at all the freedom of religion that we can have in a place like America now, Baruch Hashem. And we can have in Eretz Yisrael to the extent that we have it now, Baruch Hashem, to the extent that we're able to build yeshivas there and again have the freedoms there. It's unbelievable what we have right now, but it's still gullus. There's still, you can't see the Ribono Shel Olam. The world is not declaring Hashem Echad Shmo Echad, obviously. So that's the Hastaras Panim. That's Hashem hiding his face. But not from like the Tochacha. Why, says the Ramban? Because Bnei Yisrael did regret somewhat. To an extent, a little bit. They did regret what they did. There was some tshuva. Says the Ramban, that some tshuva does something. That some tshuva changes you and accomplishes lessening punishments, increasing rewards, bringing you closer to Hashem, unbelievable things. And we have to take that seriously. Because if we go at tshuva, and we go into every Slach Lanu and Shmona Esrei, and we go into Tshuva on Yom Kippur with, who am I kidding, in the back of our mind, gnawing at us. Come on, I'm still going to do that Avera. Come on, I'm still not going to be so careful in that mitzvah. Then it's going to feel hopeless, and it's definitely going to lessen what we can do. But if we focus on, even if we only do a part, we only do it to an extent, we're accomplishing tremendous things. We're in the Tshuva process, even if we don't fully regret it. Even if we don't fully admit it, or fully regret it, or certainly, like we discussed at length already, fully cease from doing it, we're still accomplishing an amazing amount in that tshuva process, and that's what we should be focused on. Rav Hutner has a letter that's famously quoted by many times since he wrote it, where he was writing to a bacher who was struggling with different inyanim, and the bacher says, it just seems impossible for me to just totally stop doing these averas that I'm involved in. And even though I delay and I decrease doing them, but it ends up happening. I need chizuk. And Rav Hutner said, you're the tzaddik. You're the Baal Tshuva b'makom she'ein tzaddikim gemur momtim. You're chashuv because of all the efforts you're putting in and all the successes you're having by not giving into the taiva, not doing the avera, having extra carefulness in that mitzvah that one time, even though the next time you failed, you stumbled, you did the avera, you didn't do the mitzvah so well. And Rav Hutner wants to say, Sheva Yipol Tzaddik v'Kamet, Tzaddik falls 7 times and gets up. That doesn't mean that despite the falling, he got up. Look how strong he was. He fell so many times, but got up. It means he became the tzaddik because of the fallings and the getting up. It is the fact that he was on the ground and picked himself up 7 times that made him into the tzaddik. Picking yourself up, energizing yourself to serve Hashem despite the fact that you stumbled, builds spiritual, mental, emotional muscle that allows you to become even greater and greater as life goes on. The whole tumult with the making of a gadol, that book, I don't even know how many of you even heard of it anymore. Maybe it's before a number of years ago already, but this whole book that came out, the making of a gadol, it went into chayrim and this and that. Why? Because it was revealing too much, getting into too much detail about some of the, let's call it narishkeit or averis, whatever you'd want to call it, that some of the gedolim when they were kids, when they were teenagers did. Now, everyone pretty much agreed that it's important, most people agreed, it's important for people, especially you guys, to know that the Gedolei Hador, many of them were just like you at your age. and made the same mistakes you made, some of them even worse than the average here. I don't know all of you, so I don't know if I could say worse, for sure, but probably worse than all of you, for sure than most of you. And they became the Gadol Ador. So could you become the Gadol Ador? Yes. But at the very least, could you become an upstanding chashuva person that's involved in yeshivas throughout the rest of his life in one way or another, as a balabas, or as a magid shir, or as a rebbe, or as a kol yungaman, whatever? Yes, every single one of you is shaykh to it, no matter what you're involved in right now. No matter what. The only tumult about it, the only controversy about it, was that it revealed too much detail. Okay, you want to say they struggled with things, fine, but we have to say exactly what happened at this age, and then he went there, and then he did this. We don't need to know every single detail. Okay. Bottom line is, says Rav Hutner, that's what makes greatness. It is the falling, but getting up. That doesn't mean you should fall, so you can make yourself great and get up. Obviously, it's all about trying to fall as little as possible, but it's inevitable that we will fall at times, and that's part of what makes us great, when we don't give up, and rather we get up. So we work on our Bein Adam L'Makom, but we also work on our Bein Adam L'Chavero during this time. Seres Yemei Teshuva, it's an amazing time to work on our Bein Adam L'Chavero. Think about achdas, think about someone that should be included that might not be. Think about being nice to someone we normally aren't, or normally you're just neutral with, have nothing to do with. Ways that you can just make a little comment to them. But let's just think about this one idea. Teshuva process. Here's an easy way to remember it. Recognize, admit what you did in the past. Therefore, you'll automatically feel bad because you're recognizing the severity about what you did right now. You're going to feel bad in the present. And therefore, automatically, you're going to feel desire and feel, hopefully, a level of commitment to put effort into not doing it again in the future. Past, present, future. Admit, regret, commit for the future. To put that effort in. And that's really the structure of how you apologize to a person. Maybe there's a friend, a chaver, maybe a rebbe or a parent, a sibling, someone that you should probably apologize to for something you might have done to them this past year. Or maybe in years past that you haven't apologized for. How do you apologize? Let's take a disrespectful comment to a father. So you can go to your father, you can say, Dad, I'm sorry for what I said. The response might be, okay, thank you. Or it oftentimes is, sorry doesn't cut it. What you did was terrible. So what? Thank you. Oh, you said you're sorry. Okay, what does that do? How about this apology? Following that structure. Dad, I just wanted to let you know something. I recognize that what I said was disrespectful. It undermined your authority. It was uncalled for. It might have embarrassed you in front of other people. And by the way, everything I'm saying you can translate into the way in which you would say it more for real. But the idea that I'm saying is, say the details of what you did. Don't just say, sorry for what I said. Say, you know that thing that I said? I realize it was totally disrespectful. Even just those words already is a recognition of the severity. If you can get into more detail like I did, the more the better. And therefore, I really feel bad about what I did. I really regret it. If I could take it back, I really would. And therefore, I want you to know I'm going to make an effort not to do something like that again, not to say an outburst like that again, and make it real. Even if, and this is where that effort for the future comes in, even if I get really frustrated with the decision that you made like I did. I'm really upset at the no that you gave me. I'm really upset at the way you said that or did this. Even if I'm super frustrated and really upset, I'm going to go to my room and calm down for 2 minutes before I come and respond. I'm going to really try my best to do that. It's not going to be easy, but I'm going to try my best to do that. Almost always, you make a 60-second speech like that, instead of sorry, the response is going to be apology accepted. That's an apology. And it follows that same structure of tshuva. Past, present, future. It's worthwhile to remember and to put into action if you want to really make amends with other people. So that's Bein Adam L'Makom and Bein Adam L'Chavera. So what can we do on a practical level? So the first thing I think we can do is we can try to be mezarez ourselves a little bit. As human beings, we naturally tend to be more passive. But if we can think of concepts or ideas that help get us to get off our couch, so to speak, and do something, it's a worthwhile thing. So consider the following mashal. You have a man who is in shul. Let's call him Reuven. And he sits near Shimon. And Reuven all of a sudden grasps at his chest and collapses on the floor, and Shimon happens to be part of Hatzalah. And he quickly goes over to Reuven and he starts doing CPR on him and gets the ambulance and saves Reuven's life. If not for Shimon being there in shul, there's a really good chance Reuven would be dead. And a few weeks later, it's Reuven's yahrzeit, and he wants to have an aliyah. But for one reason or another, they end up giving the aliyah to Shimon. And Reuven goes and he screams in front of the whole shul, everyone should know it's a chutzpah that Shimon took my aliyah. It was for me to have the aliyah this week. What's going on over here? It's pretty ridiculous, right? Shimon saved your life literally a few weeks ago. What are you doing? What a chutzpah. It's ridiculous, right? But that's what we do to Hashem when we do an Aveira. Everybody in the room right now, just go like this to your ears. Close your ears and tell me what you hear. Do you hear anything? So you might hear a little buzz. Maybe it's the lack of air conditioning. You might hear little sounds, but if you listen closely, the only real noise you can't close your ears from is what's going on inside your body, and that's your heartbeat. If you really listen closely, you'll hear your pulse. You don't have to try it now. Try it tonight in your bed. Okay? You'll hear your pulse. Why? Because it's constantly beating. I mean, everyone's alive here, right? So it's beating. Your pulse is continuing to beat. That's an incredible thing to think about. Most other parts of our body, we don't really have any physical sign that they're working, continuing to work, so to speak. Your heart beats without you thinking about it whatsoever. Each time it pumps the blood is absolutely necessary for that moment of life to continue. One time it just doesn't beat, and we're in huge trouble. And we can listen, we can feel, we can experience our pulse as a simple way of reminding us that the Ribbono Shalom is currently giving us life. Saving our life, so to speak. And yet we go and we slap him in the face, so to speak, by doing an Aveira, by disobeying his will. By kiviyachol embarrassing him, if you want to call it that. Disrespecting him. But really the mashal should be adjusted. Because it's not the pshat that, like we said, he saved Reuven's life a few weeks ago, and now a few weeks later, he goes and he embarrasses the Hatzalah guy, Shimon. Really? Imagine the following scene. Reuven collapses on the ground with a heart attack. By the way, a few weeks earlier, Shimon took the aliyah from Reuven in this case. Okay? A few weeks earlier, and Reuven was upset about it, but he didn't say anything. Now Reuven collapses on the ground, heart attack. Shimon rushes to do CPR. He's doing chest compressions. Every time he does chest compressions, Reuven's able to keep his eyes open. And with the little bit of breath of life that he has, with the chest compressions going down, he looks at Shimon and he says, "You took my aliyah." And Shimon's like, "What?" And just out of shock, he stops doing the chest compressions, and the guy's dead. And he does them again, and he wakes up. Yeah, the answer. That's what it's like. The Ribbono Shalom is doing CPR on us 24/7, our whole lives, for 120 years. And in the process of our heart beating, we do an Aveira. Something to consider. So is there anything we could do practically? Maybe we can try to inspire ourselves a little bit. We can think about how chashuv tshuva is, the 3 steps, and how it's doable, even that last step, to put the effort in, to make practical steps of effort to try to not do the Aveira. What can we do practically to help ourselves build ourselves? So just 2 small practical suggestions that can be done in Tefillah. And with this we'll end. 1, every Shmona Esrei you get up to Slach Lanu. Slach Lanu is often the first point in the Shmona Esrei that many people realize they're davening Shmona Esrei. Because all of a sudden they're like, whoa, oh, right. Shmona Esrei. So every Slach Lanu, almost always, at least for a moment, we realize we're davening Shmona Esrei at Slach Lanu. At that moment that you realize it, just think of one area, the more specific the better, that you think you can improve on. You don't have to yet get into the practical, here's what I'm going to do, here's the environments I'm going to avoid to make it better for me, I'm going to stay away from this, or if I want to make my tefillah better, if that's the area tefillah, then I'm going to purposely make sure to get this certain siddur. Whatever you're going to do practically, there's countless things to do practically to do a mitzvah better, to stay away from aveiros that you might be trapped in. But just think of one specific area within a mitzvah or an aveira each time you say Slach Lanu. You want to think of the same thing a few times? Fine, there's no rule to this. Try to think of a few, though, over the course of the many Shmona Esreis you'll be davening over the next few days. Every Slach Lanu. On Shabbos, do it at any point in Shmona Esrei that you remember that you're doing Shmona Esrei. Figure that out. On Yom Kippur, and here's the Iker. Really, the Iker is I hold the Shmona Esrei because that could count for 365 days a year. But on Yom Kippur also, especially when we're coming to do Teshuva, when we're doing the Vidui, some of you will use these long sheets that will give you all sorts of Averas to focus on. But try to make sure there's at least one Avera that you really focus on. That's a little bit different than the rest. Or again, one mitzvah you want to improve in, that's a little bit different than all the rest, that you really want to, and you think of actual steps. Once it gets to Yom Kippur, you really start to do that 3rd step, not just the admitting I need to be better, and the regretting what I did, and I really feel it, and then what am I going to do now on Yom Kippur? Effort that I'm going to put into, real changes, 1 or 2 environmental or mental or just different type of changes that I'm going to make that are doable, that can help me do that mitzvah better or stay away from that Aveira. Just feel it a little bit. A little bit. Second practical idea is, this is something you could say is more nogea to Tisha B'Av, but it's actually one of the things that Rabbi Avigdor Miller says is of the 10 things that a person can do on a regular basis that will almost definitely make him into a gadol. And that is, at the end of Shmona Esrei, before you take your 3 steps back, just for a moment, every one of you has either been to the Kosel or has seen a real picture of the Kosel. You all know what it looks like in your mind's eye. You can all close your eyes right now and picture the Kosel. Picture the golden dome on top of it. Picture the trees on top of it that are not supposed to be there and will be gone by Yemos HaMashiach. Picture it. Picture the idea. Feel that the Ribono Shalom is the Melech Malchei Amlachim. He's the almighty, powerful everything, giving us our lives every second. And he's without a throne. He's a king without a throne in this world. And we want the true kavod to shine through for him. That the world should recognize that he should have his throne back. Just for a moment, a few seconds, 3 to 5 seconds. Want to do more, but at least that much. Right before you take your 3 steps back in Shemona Esrei, when you can say all sorts of things in English to the Ribono Shalom, which I recommend you do, and maybe we'll speak about some of those in later Chaburos, but just picture for a few seconds that image of the Kosel, and yet it's desolate on top. The mosque is there. The trees are there. Where's the Beis Hamikdash? Where's your throne? Feel it. Again, you'll tell me, I can't really feel it. You could feel it a little bit. Just a little. Just the idea that Hashem is so great and there's no central throne, no headquarters in this world for him. you could feel that a little bit. With that image in your mind and a drop of that feeling in your heart, it does wonders spiritually, but also just to yourself in terms of who you are as a person, who you are as a yid. Those are two basic practical ideas. Focus on one thing we can improve on. Focus on the fact that the Ribbono Shel Olam is in Gullus with us. Those two parts of Shemona Esrei. And if we just feel it a little bit, as the Ramban tells us in this week's Parsha, just feel it a little bit, then the Hastaras Panim goes down, our lives improve, the Teshuva creates amazing implications for us and for the whole world, and we're slowly making ourselves into greater and better people, Meretz Hashem, to the extent that it will finally overflow the bucket of Zchuyos and for Klal Yisrael, that it will lead already now to the coming of Mashiach. B'meher b'yameinu, amen.